Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Album Spotlight, the show where I put the spotlight on a new album in progressive rock that I'm really excited about and want to share with you guys that I think you guys will dig if you like the same kind of music that I like. It's well documented on the channel of all the albums that I'm a big fan of. I like modern progressive rock more than any other genre. It's just always touched me deeply, and it's my favorite form of listening experience. So today I have a super great album review for you guys, an album that I've been looking forward to and that I've been listening to for the past month and been itching to talk about, and that is Frost and their album Life in the Wires. This is a UK prog band, one of the best in the genre, in my opinion. Their first album, 2006's Million Town, is one of the formative albums for me as I came into modern progressive rock. I think it added a new sheen and a new texture to the genre that has inspired and influenced many bands that have come after. You know, they have that typical neo-prog style, synth prog, if you will, but they add their own kind of modern sheen to it, some great production tricks, some almost poppier influences, and make it this kind of cool, icy, frosty sound that's all their own. What I really love about certain bands is that they have their own signature sound that isn't replicated very easily by anyone else. When I hear a song, I know immediately this is the Frost sound. And it's almost hard to define and to explain what that sound exactly is, but it's this neo-prog style with a bit of a heavier, harder edge, with a poppy gloss sheen over the top of it, and an icy kind of soundscape. And it all combines into this brilliant sound that is equal parts emotional and expressive, but also impressive and virtuosic, and has so much great playing and skill. And this album, Life in the Wires, is somewhat of the culmination of everything that's come before it. You know, they've had 4 albums prior to this, Million Town, as I mentioned, in 2006, Experiments in Mass Appeal from 2008, Falling Satellites from 2016, and Day and Age from 2021. And this album feels like almost a greatest hits of all 4 of those albums. They each have their own vibe and their own feel and are each brilliant in their own rights, in my opinion. And this album brings all those influences together and creates something new out of it that is just brilliant and wonderful to behold. It's a 2-disc concept record. Not an easy feat to get through this album. There's so much here. There's so much dense, layered musical complexity that I can imagine that it's somewhat hard to unravel the layers as you listen through and try to remember all of the different parts and the different sections. And it all maybe blends together, at least through the first few listens. But as you continue onward with it, all these things start to unravel and reveal so many great melodic hooks, so many memorable moments that bring you back time and time again, so many virtuosic soloing sections that bring a smile to your face and you just can't help but groove along to what they're doing and marvel at the brilliance that's on display. Just everything about this record is what I love in progressive rock. So if you haven't gotten the message yet, I'm absolutely floored by this record. I think it's one of the strongest in the modern prog scene in quite some time. The lineup here for this record is Jim Godfrey on keyboards, guitar, and vocals. He does all the vocals on here. On past Frost records, there's been a couple different vocalists throughout the years. John Mitchell has done some vocals in previous records. Deck Burke was in the band briefly and did some vocals. But Jim Godfrey did most of the vocals in the early years, in the Million Town era, and so it's a nice nod to that classic era of the band. We've got Nathan King on bass, we got John Mitchell on guitars, we've got Craig Blundell on drums. A fantastic lineup, just all of them virtuosic and brilliant on what the instruments they play. And this is all the brainchild of Jim Godfrey. He came up with this concept. It's basically a continuation of Day and Age. It takes elements from that and makes a whole story out of it, basically. It takes the ending of Day and Age, and this album kind of begins where that album left off, but in a very conceptual way with a very narrative storyline. But the lyrics, I don't think, totally spell out the story. It's not like a beat-for-beat narration. I think there's a lot of room for interpretation. A lot of it's more about the feelings of the protagonist and what they're going through as they're exploring this landscape and dealing with what they're dealing with. But as a bit of a explanation of the actual concept of the record, it's based around a main protagonist called Nio, a child bound for a meaningless future in an AI world until he hears and finds an ancient DJ called Livewire on an old radio. Nio begins to track the source of the signal in hope of discovering a better future, and Livewire becomes Neo's cosmic voice of hope buried in the static. But the all-seeing eye, a dark and evil presence reminiscent perhaps of the symbol of the Illuminati, is displeased by this and imposes his resistance on Nio. It's a dystopian and post-apocalyptic kind of feel to this, but done in incredible prog fashion. It was structurally developed with vinyl in mind, and you can feel that these tracks are grouped together by the album side that they reside on. So I think Jim Godfrey has spoken in interviews how he constructed this by thinking of it in like 20-minute musical snapshots throughout the record, because that's about the perfect length of time for a vinyl side. So you can feel that as you listen through the record, that the first 4 tracks make up the first side, the next 4 tracks make up the second side, the next 4 tracks make up the third, and then the final 2 tracks, because we have one fairly epic length track on that final side, are the last 2. So a fantastic assortment of music on here. Like I said, fairly overwhelming. There's a lot going on, and I think it would take me probably too long to detail every single moment and nuance that happens throughout. But to give you an idea of some of the great things that are on board here, Skywaving is the beginning with some tinkling keys and some electronic kind of Morse code type sounds, that signal, that radio signal, some whispery cool vocals. Life in the Wires Part 1 was the initial single that came out that gives you a great impression of what the album's all about. Some heavier drum hits, some classic Frost fast-paced synth work, some poppier style vocals, that cool and frosty feel that I mentioned, some stellar musicianship and catchy hooks in abundance, and some pretty piano work on top of all of it. So an excellent single to showcase what you could expect through the record. There's some more ballad, lighter feel tracks that break up some of the heavier, more intense moments. This House of Winter is a beautiful ballad with great piano and vocals. Strange World is one that has a lot of atmosphere and standout icy vocals, great hooks and great choruses. Absent Friends has some beautiful keys and heartfelt vocals and swelling strings. We've got Sign of Life, which is a very emotionally driven track, which continues with a nice beat underneath and some sonic wizardry over the top to give it some added flavor. But amongst those tracks, you have some of the heavier moments. The Solid State Orchestra gives you some great buildup with stabbing keyboards and tinkling keys, some luscious harmonies, some great triumphant keyboard soloing. Evaporator continues along the same line with some really cool, catchy hooks and driving beats and moments of almost 80s style aesthetic. I really love it. Idiot Box gives you that really heavy crunch, some really high octane moments with some heavy guitar riffs. School is a really cool instrumental moment with almost a hip-hop inspired beat and building layers of keyboards and really cool synth soloing as well. Propaganda is another big energetic track with a bit of a funkier feel, great persistent bass lines, some killer drum grooves, some great stop and start moments. It's just really fun and expressive. And on the last record, Day and Age, the band mentioned that they were trying to move away from soloing on that record, that it was all about the song itself and not doing those flashy show-off solo sections like they did on Million Town. But this one, they're back into that mold. There's plenty of great solo sections, plenty of expressive instrumental playing, and it's a joy to witness and behold. To me, the finale, the last 3 tracks in particular, is just breathtaking music. This is one of the best sections of music that I've heard in quite some time. Moral and Consequence starts this with some of the coolest, most off-kilter funky grooves with playful guitars and quirky beats. Just absolutely fantastic and fun to listen to. There's a kinship to like Black Light Machine from the first Million Town record, one of my all-time favorite Frost tracks, where it becomes this ultimate jam section at the end where the band just takes off and does these impressive soloing feats, some proggy feels, just heavy rocking good times, some funky moments, some really cool stop and start sections, almost some false starts, false endings, just a fantastic feel. And just exhilarating, fun music to just explore and enjoy. Life in the Wires Part 2 is just a standout. Just like Million Town, the track before it, it's this expansive track that takes you through so many layers and levels. A strong prog statement, some furious synth soloing, some great vocal moments and harmonies, some rocking Hammond organ, some shredding guitar lines. I love how there's moments where it gets more laid back and almost a jazzier section. There's a cool, catchy vocal moment, some cool poppier sections, really great vocal spotlights and frosty keyboard moments. But it never really lets up, and there's always a furious, cool proggy section just right around the corner with all kinds of complexity and a built-in furiosity and virtuosity that's just unmatched by most of their contemporaries. Just a fantastic expression and statement of music. And then we end with Starting Fires, which is a bit more of a cool down, a bit more of a ballad-esque type track, a very effects-laden vocals, textured ballad feel, but it still has that feel of power and gives you this kind of satisfying conclusion and an anthemic and poignant ending to this whole track sequence. So just a fantastic record. I can't speak more highly of it. I think this is what prog is all about and what modern progressive rock can do at its highest form. This is art at its highest level. It's an incredible concept. It's expressed in an extremely creative fashion with music that goes all over the place, but still feels like it's all grounded in the same universe and all with that Frost signature sound all over it. It's almost a greatest hits collection of everything that's come before, and yet also forging a new path ahead for them of something that sounds new and fresh and exciting in a world where a lot of people pull from their pasts and don't do anything new and exciting with it. I think Frost breaks that mold and takes what was great in the past and brings a new element to it to make it fresh for our future. And it's just fantastic all the way around. One of my favorite records of the year. A can't miss record. I think everyone who loves progressive rock should listen to this because there's got to be something on here that'll grab your ears and attention. It's just that fabulous. So please listen to it. Please check it out this Friday. I think you guys will all be impressed, and I think it's going to be one of the biggest releases this year in progressive rock, bar none. Definitely worth your time and attention. So thank you guys for joining me in this review. Hopefully you appreciated my words here, and let me know in the comments how you feel about Frost, if you're excited for the upcoming release. I can't wait to hear other people's impressions and thoughts about this incredible music. It's really marvelous. So thank you guys, and I'll catch you guys in a future episode. Bye everybody.